in line for the dopest girl show. The essence will be holding us down.
Cross the line.
That's the only thing you don't do. You can
cross the
skip
line.
it. You can get in line, wait online.
Let's have a good time. Get in line, free your mind. Let the music help you celebrate life. Get in line, keep it real. Get empowered and inspired to feel.
What's up, guys? It's your girl, The Essence, right here on the The Essence Show. Welcome back. Thank you for tuning in each and every week. I have a great show for you guys. It's very informative, I should say. Look at that. Maybe they'll help me know how to pronounce my words, right? We're back in the school season. Everything is going right back to before summer started. I hope everybody really enjoyed this summer. It went really fast. And I hope everybody has a great time and productive year, because we only have a few months left, and then it's a whole brand new year.
Wow.
I can't even believe that 2019 has just kind of just went by.
Yeah.
Anyway, to welcome this new season, I would like to introduce a special guest of mine who is also a friend and also helps out on production. But that's not why he's here. He's here because he just consists of so many other things. He also has been the author of this new book that has been released, The College Freshman Guide to Your First Year of College, that basically I've read, even though I've been there, done that, but it was very inspiring for me. It actually made me kind of reminisce on my years and the decisions I've made and what I would have known now if I would have read this. But I also applied it to my life and the decisions that I've made in my career path and just my next steps. So please don't get scared that it says first year of a college, because it actually walks you through maybe a career path that you're trying to choose, or if you're trying to go back to college, it can be a very overwhelming thing. College does not have an age. It is for anyone who wants to go back and get a degree, or maybe needs a hobby, or just wants to educate themselves a little bit more. He is also an educator and a college professor, so I felt like he would have a lot to share. So we'll be talking about college experience. We'll get into some marriage, because he's been married for about 25 years with 2 kids, and I think that's very inspirational as well. I would like to welcome the very handsome, educated
You're kind.
Geoffrey M. Smith.
Thank you so much, The Essence.
What's going on?
Life.
Life?
But it's life, but it's so great to be with you. And I
Yes.
thank you for the introduction. In fact, I was wondering who you were introducing.
Were
When you
you?
were saying that just now, I was looking behind my shoulder, but it's great to be here. And yes, it is. Thank you.
Yeah, I remember I had a pilot to do for a show,
Yeah.
and we ended up on set together, and we had a great half hour speaking.
Yeah.
And I told you once we would start the The Essence show that I would bring you back on.
Yes, thank
And
you.
now we have this amazing book,
Yeah, yes.
who you also have a co-writer of.
Yes, Dr. Harvey Gilmore, who sends his regrets just with scheduling conflicts with
Yes.
our semester, wasn't able to make it tonight, so I'm just pinch hitting for the team.
It's okay.
Yes.
It's all right.
Thank
So
you.
what's up? We have a lot of things going on.
Yes, we do. We do. I've been a college professor, like you said, for over 25 years. Where did that time go? And I've seen some changes. I think, as you said, college when I went many years ago, and this is some years ago, was for people who were, say, 18 years old and out of high school. And often your parents said, go to college. That's why a lot of us went.
Yeah, it was like the next step. If
Yes.
not, you're going to the Army, or you're going to just find a job.
Yes.
You pick.
Yes.
Right?
So I decided to go to college. And then in the book, The College Freshman Guide to First Year Greatness, we literally just sat and said, let's chronicle what we did.
Right.
What did Dr. Gilmore do? What did Geoffrey Smith do? And, we didn't take necessarily a traditional path. I mean, he had his bumps and bruises along the way from school, and I know I did. And it's so interesting for those that are really listening and watch and tune into the show. Look at it this way. It's not too late to go.
It's never late to do anything.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Life is what you make it.
It is.
We were always living on a timeline.
Yes.
High school, college,
yes,
get a
yes,
job,
yes.
buy your own house, marriage, children, and then what? Raise children, work,
Right.
and then die, right?
All right, well, hopefully there's some stretches in there, but it's a great point. And it's so funny because when I look at my own life, had I waited, if I went now,
Yeah.
there's this expression that my father raised us with, and he said, it's a sad fact that youth is wasted on the young. And it was really George Bernard Shaw that said that quote. But I probably would have been a much different student. I probably would have embraced it. Sometimes we go to college just to get through.
Yep.
And life probably isn't just getting through. It's really enjoying the journey, the journey.
Of it, yep.
And so with college, I mean, I'm seeing a lot of younger people, and what I'm seeing is you have majors. People are choosing majors like culinary. And it was never around when I was in college years ago as a college student, meaning baking and pastry and criminal justice. I didn't remember these majors years ago. Yeah. So what I love about the college scene now is just how inclusive it is, how expansive, how wide it's gotten. Mm-hmm. I mean, I went to Baruch for my undergrad, which is a great school, but it's known for business.
Right.
Right? And if you didn't want to do business, then you probably went someplace else. But now, just to say that, and for purposes of full disclosure, I do teach at Monroe College, and there it's an amazing thing that President Mark Jerome is doing with his team of Dr. Carty and Dr. Coltman, all of them. Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying is these majors are incredible, and it's including people. Before, it just came down to, if you didn't want to study business, if you didn't want to study nursing, if you didn't want to study education, then what do you do?
Right.
And now it's like you can get degrees, you can be an entrepreneur, you can have a job, you can, work in the community, you can help, you can do so many things. And I'm excited about the whole field of education as we speak. I'm really excited about that. So again, it's just a joy to be with you. So however you want to continue to proceed.
So you're also a professor of psychology over 25 years.
Yes, correct.
So you're a college professor, but then I'm sure you were doing some analyzing of these students. How does that all work out?
You sort of do. That's the one thing about being a psychology professor is you always remind yourself to unplug the switch a little bit. Mm-hmm. Because there's such a tendency to analyze, to dissect, I was talking with the staff earlier, and someone mentioned the word persona, which means mask. Mm-hmm. The persona that we wear, it's really a mask, and who are we? I do think that younger people today across the board, it's not at one particular college, the struggles that they do have are a little different, say, than when I went to college. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that the younger people continue to remind me is this concept of bullying is a lot different than it was when I was in middle school, elementary school, high school. Mm-hmm. I went to Evander High School years ago on Gun Hill Road. Mm-hmm. Fun place, really, really cool, fun. But if there was ever an issue, you kind of settled it right there.
Right.
Talked it out and you were friends again.
Right.
Whereas I think with social media, two things that I'm seeing happen from a
psychological... Or you just got it over at 3 o'clock when the bell rang, right?
3:02 it was done. And what I see now is this social media has it kind of lingering on, and I post something, I don't, but I mean, it's hypothetical. So someone's posting something about her, and she says it about him. Pictures are exchanged. The other thing is, if we look at the fact that families aren't what they were, say 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. So at the time of this speaking, and we're going to talk about this later, my parents, we just celebrated their 62nd wedding anniversary.
Wow, God bless.
Amen. And it's a blessing to sit back and I don't see that today. What I see is there's hookups, and again, we'll talk about that later, as you said. But there's, we get together, it's not what I thought, the next person comes along, and it's so, we're missing out on stuff. So today's younger people, while they have advantages with technology, often have the disadvantage of the breakdown in the family, and often in communities of color where we're both from.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So what are you feeling about the college curriculum? Because when I was in college, I went for radio and television broadcasting.
Okay, wow.
But I didn't get to that till like my third, fourth year.
Right.
And by that time, I was graduating. And then I had to go look for a job.
Right.
But I don't feel like I had the proper training. Like, I feel like when you go to college, it should be, some I don't know, more about your major and what you're taking up than all types of math that you never, like, I was doing calculus. Like,
right.
Like, what's going on with that?
If you ask me this, it's a great question, as usual with you. If we had this conversation 5 years ago, I would have said, I don't need this math. Who needs trigonometry and all this stuff here? The one thing that I would say that, and I've learned as one who studied like you did as well, especially as a college student, the only thing that I can say about courses like physics and advanced writing and all these math courses is it's going to teach you how to think differently.
Okay.
So when problems come, you have to readdress the strategy. So I'm going to bring the psychology background in real quickly. So when you're looking at math, 1 and 1 is 2. Or it could be 11 if you have a bad accountant. No, but seriously, 1 and 1 is 2. And if you turn around and say, all right, well, that's pretty straightforward. But if you start talking about, square roots and quadratic roots and pi r squared and all these different things, Well, that's teaching you about life because you're going to be confronted with situations that have you thinking differently.
Okay.
So I understand what you're saying. The adage is, well, I'm never going to use geometry again. Where am I going to use Pythagorean's theory of the right triangle again? You won't. But it's the thinking, it's the skill set that you get to think that can help you in other areas,
makes sense.
and especially relationships. Because relationships, and again, we'll come to it, but relationships are about thinking out of the box. Really about thinking and saying, as opposed to focusing on the problem, let me focus on new solutions.
Right.
And I think that's what some of these courses and the curriculum, to answer your question, can address. I think it's good to get out of our comfort zones.
Okay.
Like you clearly are excellent with radio, television, media. Great. Well, then growth often comes through pain and struggle. So now, what areas are you not good in? And then take that thought process and put it back to your day job, so to speak, and enhance your marketability, your brand, as the word goes today. So I think the curriculum today, it could always be more exciting depending upon where you are.
Pretty much.
But at the end of the day, life is not always about entertaining.
That's true, too.
And I was with a student the other day, and she showed me this. It was an art gallery we had at the college. And it was a picture she had, and the quote said, and I'm really paraphrasing and probably messing this up, but it said, the tougher the climb, the better the view.
Okay.
I think that's what it said. The tougher the
That makes
climb,
perfect sense.
the better the view. So you really push and struggle to get somewhere. I mean, your own journey through television, this probably has not been easy.
No.
But at the end of the day, the view you've enjoyed stems from the work you've put in.
Yeah,
and I think
definitely.
that's really where I look at things now. So the curriculum, again, just to bring it in, it's not easy. It wasn't meant to be easy. My father told me once, if school were easy, then everybody would have a degree.
Right.
I mean, if you want to flip it the other
And
way.
I believe you mentioned that in the book, too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
And you have kind of methods for how to memorize and how to pick your classes.
Oh, sure.
Not be stuck.
Yes. Yeah. And what I also tell students just with that is while you're in class, what a great place to meet people for your future. I'm not saying to hook up and have, stuff like that, marriages or anything, but that's possibly down the road when you're ready.
Right.
But in class, there might be former business partners with you. In class, there might be a co-author. I've known Dr. Gilmore. I've been blessed to know him for a couple of decades now. And we are both academicians. We're both professors. And again, we sit at meetings, you get to talking, hey, here's a book, here's an idea. So while you're in class, you never know who he's sitting next to. You never know.
That's very true.
Even the professors, and not because I'm one, but just to say that you might bump into someone real quickly. Many years ago, I did something at my college. I was elected to a position, but I had to have an interview with one of the vice presidents. This is going back. I didn't meet him before. And as I was going in to check my tie in the men's room, I had a cup of tea, white shirt. The door came out and it hit me. So here it is 10 minutes before this 9 o'clock interview, and I got tea all over my jacket, all over my shirt, everything, this big stain. And the gentleman apologized, and all I said was, it's no big deal. Listen, it's only tea, it'll dry. Well, 10 minutes later when I had the interview, that was the man. The guy that was coming out of the bathroom that knocked the tea over on me was the person I'm interviewing with.
Right.
And he said, before you started, you have the job because your disposition is so great.
Thank God that you went.
Right?
Yes.
Can you imagine?
Oh, you would have not been hired.
Oh, yeah.
Just by the way you responded.
I would have told the guy, pick a window. Which window you want to go out, Right.
So the reason I really enjoyed your book was because it was truth.
Thank you.
It was separated by dialogue, which
Yeah.
means I was able to put your personality with your
Thank you.
story
Thank you.
and your humor.
Yeah, well,
I cracked. I did a little chuck on the train a few times. I'm like, oh, G has not changed.
Dangerous in New York, maybe not. No, and thank you.
Yeah.
No, you know what it comes down to? Just as you're hardwired to do this, I have humor in my background. And what a way to communicate a message. And the humor underlying it is saying, life isn't always serious, nor does it have to be. There are serious moments.
Of course.
Raising a family, choosing a career, committing to a career, those are serious things. But along the way, if you can enjoy it,
Why not?
and have a laugh or two.
Yeah.
In the book, I talk about my first day in college going back many years ago. I didn't know you had to buy books.
Yeah.
So the professor said, any questions? And I put my hand up and said, where do you keep the books? And the class laughed. I mean, they laughed for about 20 minutes. And I looked around and I said, I think I said something wrong. And she said, what do you mean? And I said, well, in high school, the books are in the closet. May I help you hand out the books?
Right.
And I was told you had to go to a place called Barnes & Noble. And I was like, okay, and you had to buy books. And I didn't know that. The ability to laugh at yourself, the ability to laugh in situations, oh my goodness.
And it eases your audience too.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. One of the things I've tried to do in my 20 plus years and many more to come as a professor is show that I'm not perfect. There's this mysticism sometimes that your professors or your principals or your assistant principals are flawless people who just have it all figured out. No, I went night school for undergrad. I mean, so many things. I had to work and go to school. I knew the number of, I had to work something like 29 hours a week, I think it was, to break even just to pay tuition.
Yes, when I saw your like work schedule at that time, I was like, wow.
It was what it was.
Yeah.
But you know, I was raised with the idea that nothing comes to a dreamer but sleep.
Okay.
Right? So to sit back and have these ideas that I dream about, graduated from college, well, it's what I've learned in my journey thus far, is it's not whether you can do this, the essence, or whether Geoffrey or Harvey or whomever can do it. It's what are you willing to give up to reach your dreams? Okay. That's the key. And at the top of the list, sleep. At the top of the list, sometimes money.
Yeah.
At the top of the list, maybe some friends.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if they didn't stay for the journey, then they probably shouldn't have been there in the first place. So I've learned a few things. You just learn. As time goes by, you learn. So that idea of, so I had to work and go to school. You know what? What a great thing. And if you're ever going to put in some hours and hustle and work hard, do it while you're younger. And do it without all these big commitments.
Definitely.
We've raised 2 kids, my wife and I, and again, we'll talk, of course. That's a commitment. That's a heck of a commitment.
How old are your children?
Good question. Boy, you put me on the spot on this one. I want to say 20 and 18.
Oh, wow.
20 and 18.
Wow.
Yeah, our daughter just got back from spending a little bit more than 3 months in South Africa studying women's rights.
Oh, that's nice.
My son's in college also doing really great stuff. But
so you're always a college professor then? Because when you come home, you're dealing with the same age group kind of.
You know, you try to...
You're just dad.
Right, right. I mean, you know, listen, you know, we're all raised in a certain culture, many of us, so I think the culture takes over a little bit more. You know, the idea in psychology is to sit back and just ask questions. You know, if you walk in and some dishes are broken or a window's cracked, in psychology, well, let's just analyze what happened and how did you feel while doing that? That's psychology. But the reality of it is, look at it. Why did that window break? Get over here. And you want to kind of sit and talk and instill a certain level of discipline without going in. So I think the tricky part, and I've learned this, again, hindsight's 20/20, but I tried to do it when my wife and I were both raising him, she's an educator as well, is really try to get to a point where you listen. Because that's the tricky part. Raising kids can be very interesting, as we'll see a little bit later. Kids can impact a marriage positively and negatively.
Definitely.
And, you know, you come in after a hard day and you have to deal with kids. And
sometimes they just need that pat on the back, even from a teacher or a principal.
Yeah. And you know, you do that in your home with the with the students in the classroom. I just tried to listen, because I do think that on the one hand, we are connected through these loose ties of social media, but there's a lot of lonely people out here.
A lot.
There's a lot of frustrated people. There's a lot of scared people. When I say scared, there's a lot of people who are fearful. If you look at this news, and I'm not knocking any stations or whatever, but some of this stuff just kind of comes at you so much about weather and the economy and finances. And
it puts the fear in you.
It can if you let it.
Yeah.
But we also say in the book that, and I've learned this and somebody else coined it before me, fear is false evidence appearing real. So it's not real. You got to address it. And that's the hard part. But you have a lot of young people, and again, getting back to the breakdown in families, you know, it's so amazing how marriage and things work today. Our grandparents and great-grandparents had a lot less than we did. I asked a group of students the other day, who has a debit card? And it was like 20 students. And I think 19 hands went up.
Wow.
And I got my first debit card, I think a year and a half ago.
Okay.
And I just left, because these are students that just got out of high school. They're now freshmen in college.
Yeah.
And 95% had a debit card, a credit card.
Wow.
And I look at what our parents had or didn't have. I look at what our great-grandparents, and I was raised with all, you know, I had generations for many years, thank God. And most of them had nothing in the sense of like material stuff.
Right.
But they have love, they had spirituality. They you know, less is more kind of a thing.
Right.
We got a lot of stuff now.
Right.
I read somewhere recently that the average person in America wears about 1 out of 4 of their clothes on a regular basis, like the favorite T-shirt, the favorite jeans, the favorite hat. So we literally have people who have just clothes jammed into a drawer somewhere that they don't wear, but it makes them feel good. One of the first things my daughter did when she got back from the 25-hour short flight from Cape Town, South Africa, where she went and cleaned out her closet the first day she was back and says, I don't need as much as I thought I had.
Look at that.
I don't need as much as I thought I needed, I guess. Let me share it with someone.
Right.
well, I don't know about you, but I was raised with the kind of couple pair of pants, a couple pair of shirts, and one pair of sneakers. And those sneakers had to last the whole year.
Right.
And one time my sneakers had so many holes, if I stepped on gum, I knew the flavor. You know what I mean? Mint. Because it was just the way it was.
Right.
And now you look at it, the kids have Uber accounts, debit cards, credit cards, debt.
But a lot of them still don't know how to balance a checkbook.
Right. And that's the tricky part. And I think if there's anything that I want the viewers to take away from this, is really try to have a balance in your life. A balance of faith, a balance of time with your loved ones.
Definitely.
And work and all the other things, and maybe some travel if you like that, or some hobbies are so important. We know from psychology that one of the ways you can reduce stress at any level is have a hobby. A hobby like sketching, a hobby like drawing, a hobby like stamp collecting, a hobby like baking. I bake bread, actually.
Me time.
And some me time. Just some time to kind of step back and shut the phones, shut all the social media. And again, I'm using my daughter as a blueprint for this because she was away in another culture for literally months and just disconnected from all these things and realized I don't need as much as I thought I needed. We really don't.
It's all distraction anyway.
And those distractions, that's what our great-grandparents, grandparents, and parents didn't have.
Right.
And look how they made it. They made it, with very little, and they married 70 years.
Even when we were younger.
Yes.
So,
think about it.
what was your what's your biggest challenge dealing with college students?
I think at some levels, many college students that I've encountered are the first in the family to go. So it's almost instilling the confidence that you can really do this.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we often don't have, depending upon your community, we don't have that role model. It's so easy to look at somebody and say, oh, they did it, I can do it.
Right.
But lots of times we don't have that. So we're kind of going in, it's almost like flying with your eyes closed. You just kind of, I'll get through this. And again, asking about where the book's kept. That's not a question that a kid who has a direct lineage of educators would ask.
Right.
You sit back and say, well, of course you go to Barnes & Noble and open up an account and do that. I'm sitting back looking for the books. So I think
the store in the school. That's why I used to get my books.
A bookstore, sure.
Yeah.
I didn't know that existed.
Yeah, you kind of just learn it.
You learn as you go.
Yeah.
So I think part of it is instilling the confidence. I also think that there is a discipline that people have to have. So timing. If a class starts at 8 o'clock in the morning, you be there at 7:30.
Yeah.
If the class is over at 5 o'clock, stay till 5:15.
Because there's a lot of freedom.
Sure.
You don't even have to show up to class.
You don't.
But
yes.
you should.
Yes.
Because that's the duty that you chose to do.
Right. But what ultimately happens there is depending upon someone like myself who, has a knowledge of how street smarts go, as well as education and travel and all the things I've been blessed to do, I might ask a question about, in our last lecture, name 2 key points. What was the last thing I said?
Right.
So, and I'm being a little facetious, but what I'm saying is you do have to be there, but it's instilling in people that freedom comes with so freedom is not free.
Right.
And
as we know.
And if you look at any degree, it generally says that you're entitled to the rights, privileges, and responsibilities. So it's being responsible. And also preparing for people to say, once you get this bachelor's or master's or associate's or PhD or law degree, whatever, once you get this, you're going to get on your grind for a while. So it's not like you're going to sit back and work 10 hours a week. You're going to work 90 hours a week.
Yeah.
You're going to work 80 hours a week. You're going to work 6-7 days a week. You're going to leave when it's dark and come home when it's dark and really try to build your brand and build your career. And I give this lecture in my marriage and family class called Lust versus Love. And one thing about lust is a German word that from the German Lustus, which means almost animal passion, like animal sex. And one problem with lust is wanting something without paying the full price for it. So I want to have the degree and have the title and make the money, but am I willing to work 18 hours a day?
Right.
I mean, I look at you whenever I've sent you a text and I say this lovingly, I mean, you'll send it back within if it's 38 seconds, I'm wondering, what happened to the essence? Why did it take her so long to send me a text? I mean, you're on your grind. No matter what time I send the text, you're sending it back. That lets me know that you're working. And I think letting people know that the degree, it's called commencement, right? It's commencement means to begin.
Okay.
So it's really saying, hey, when you get this degree, right, amazing, but you now now the real work begins. This college has been great. This master's is amazing. Now the real work starts. And at some point, the discipline also of finances. I think that's something I could do 3 shows on finances, to say the least. I always tell students one of the worst places you ever want to be is working 60 hours a week and not getting and getting further into debt from loans and other things, and you broke more than the 10 Commandments. Is this thing on? So so it's really being at a point where you turn around. So you have to manage your time, manage your health.
We have 2 minutes left. Oh, okay. So before you tell our viewers where they can find you and where they can purchase the book.
Absolutely.
One advice to keep a marriage going strong.
Listen more than you talk. And also, you said 1, but I'll do 1.5.
Okay.
Marry someone that you love listening to. Marry someone that you can communicate with.
That you like.
But that you really like them, right? What they stand for.
Yeah.
See, here's the tricky part. The sexual part is instinctive. We're born knowing how to do that. God created us for that.
Yeah.
The part that's not instinctive is leaving a note, complimenting someone, noticing things, doing things that they like, not just what you like. So I would say try to find someone, and let me just give it to you as I learned it over the years. Opposites will always attract, but the more you have in common will sustain.
Beautiful. I gotta leave it right there. Geoffrey, it's been a pleasure. Let the viewers know where they can find you and where they can find this magnificent book.
You can find this book on Amazon.com, and the book is called The College Guide to First Year Greatness, Geoffrey Smith and Professor Harvey Gilmore. You can reach me at gsmoove, SMOOVE, 147 at Gmail. And you can reach Professor Gilmore at hgilmore at tax@gmail.com.
I love it, and we need to keep spreading this around. Hopefully you can write another one, like the next step.
Absolutely.
Because this helps a lot.
You're kind.
Let's do another one.
I'd love to. Thank
you, Geoffrey. Of course. I want
pleasure.
you to come back so we can talk about more things.
I'm there.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning into this segment. I have the BX Principal coming in. I'm so excited. It's been months. We'll be right back, right here on the DS Show.
Amazing.
Great shit.
Oh.
On that test. Good.
Good kid.
Great. You're the best kid ever.
Okay, you want him to breathe.
There's a lot of fear in coming back to school. I wasn't sure if I could do it. I'm a 40-year-old man that walked in there to get his high school diploma. It was very hard for me, but the teachers, the counselors, they help you. One of the teachers was Miss Araceli. Miss Araceli, she gave me direction. Every single time I had a question, she'll put down whatever she's doing and she'll come over and she'll sit there with you until you get it. Thank you, Miss Araceli. I know you make a difference in people's lives because of personal teaching.
You ready?
Hi. Oh my God.
That was so fast. I feel like we're like rushing through. I hate it.
50% of getting your high school diploma is walking through those doors. The other 50% is doing the work. Getting your high school diploma, it is a life-changing experience. It really is.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
And we're back. You're watching the DS Show. Thank you once again for tuning in. And I have my new next special guest. I met him probably like about a year or two ago. We met at a Windows of Hip Hop event. They were doing an honorary show, and he had gotten up and did a speech. And I was just like, who is that? I need to know who he is. So we call him the Bronx Principal. He's amazing to me. He is the Outstanding Young Educator of 2011. 2014, he was the Daily News Hometown Hero. 2015, he was NAACP Educator of the Year. And 2019, he was a drug-free world hero. Mm-hmm. And so much more. He's working for our Bronx community at CS55, right?
Yes.
And we're thinking about, we're actually working with education and hip-hop music to kind of collaborate both into one. And I want to welcome the first time to the DS Show, Luis Torres.
Thank you for having me. So it's been a long time coming.
It's been a long time coming. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. It's very special to be here on this show.
Thank you.
You know, I followed your show. I see it on social media. I see it on the internet. And I just want to say, you know, it's special to be on this show, especially you're from the Bronx and you're repping the Bronx.
All the time.
So this is very important to me.
Yes, and I want to thank you for being an educator in the Bronx and doing better for our children. and working in a very, how should I say it? Not easy neighborhood.
Challenging.
It's very challenging, correct. And you go in there every day suited up, ready to work. And I'm sure the kids love you because you are very down to earth. And I wish I had a principal like you when I was young.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I mean, I grew up in the neighborhood. So, you know, I grew up on Elder and Watson,
Okay.
the Soundview section. So it's like being at home.
Okay.
You know, I'm very fortunate I could work in my house.
Yeah.
You know, and the children represent who I was back then. So I want to make sure that everything I offer them is what I would want as a child growing up.
And real quickly, how was that when you were growing up?
Very interesting. I learned about art by looking at the graffiti artists painting murals of my friends being killed.
Oh.
You know,
Okay.
it was very interesting.
I wasn't expecting that.
No,
I
but
thought you were talking about like Tats Crew and stuff like that.
Well, Tats Crew it was actually the Tats Crew
Okay.
painting the murals
Okay.
of my friends who were, you know, killed and different people who have died and passed on. And then I went to high school, Stevenson High School. And I had a guidance counselor tell me that I would not be successful in college, that I should join the military.
Oh, I think my guest Geoffrey had an experience like that too.
Yeah, so I went
Yeah.
into the military at the age of 18.
Okay.
And came back and said, never again will I allow a child to have someone else decide where they will go in the future.
Okay, so that was a guidance counselor, you said?
My guidance counselor,
But it wasn't
Stevenson High
your
School.
parents.
No, my parents, you know, parents, they listen to educators, and they back then it was even stronger.
Yeah.
When an educator tells you this is where your child needs to go, they usually listen. And
Right.
I wound up in the military. I mean, it was a great experience, even though it was not what I wanted. And then I came back and I wound up with 4 college degrees just to prove the guidance counselor wrong.
And what college degrees were those?
So I have an associate's degree from Hostos Community
Okay.
College, a bachelor's degree from City College, a master's degree from Mercy College, and an advanced degree from Hunter College.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Any more degrees on the way?
Well, I finished the New York City Leadership Academy, and right now I'm a Con Fellow. I'm very fortunate to be a Con Fellow. Not many people get into this program. And I'll eventually do my doctorate. But, you know, right now my focus is on doing what I have to do for the school and the community.
Okay, so give us a little briefing on what we're doing in the schools today.
Oh,
You're at CS55, right?
Yeah.
Which is a community-based school.
community school,
And you're telling me that it's on Washington Avenue on 170th?
right in the middle of the Claremont houses.
Wow. Survival.
Yeah, it's survival at its best, but, you know, it's the best place to work. We have a hospital in the school through Montefiore.
Nice.
We have a nurse, dentist, psychologist, ophthalmologist now.
Wow.
Full-time on staff. We have farms in the school through Green Bronx Machine.
Yes, I was listening to you talk about that in another interview, and I was like, wow, you don't have to go anywhere.
Yeah, no, we feed our community. We do everything in our community.
That's
Actually, we
beautiful.
are planning to open up the first ever music studio.
Yes.
Windows of Hip Hop Music Studio. You know about that.
Yes, I do. I did know about it, but now it's out there.
So yeah, it's out there, and,
Yeah.
and in fact, I'm gonna be, you know, working on a new design for a school. I want to make our school the Elements School.
Okay.
And it's gonna be based on the elements of hip hop. So not only are we gonna build a music studio, but we're looking to create a whole school where the culture will be around hip hop.
Oh my God, I'm so jealous. Can I go back in time and be in that school?
Absolutely.
Oh, I
You
would
can come
love
back.
that. So what do you mean? Like they'll have memorabilia and just very inspired pieces?
No,
or?
that's the way people think
Uh-huh.
about it. But what we want to do is change the culture, actually infuse it into everything we do, from instruction to dance classes. We'll be doing breakdancing classes in the school, because you know what? Now it's an Olympic sport.
Yes,
right?
it is.
Breakdancing is now an Olympic sport.
Yes, it is.
We're going to be doing a band, instrumental program. We're going to also put the music studio in the basement of the school, where we're going to teach children how to record and how to do other things.
Oh, is there any DJing going on there?
DJing, MCing, rapping.
Really? I'm so jealous.
We want all of our children to learn the legal business before they learn the illegal stuff.
Right, because the illegal stuff is right out their door.
Absolutely. So we need to make sure that our children are engaged and focused early. If we wait till middle and high school, it's too late. We got to get them early.
So we're doing elementary, which is what grade? Well, what age to what age?
So we're 3K, which are 3-year-olds,
Oh, wow.
all the way up until 10, 11, 12-year-olds, which is 3K to 5th grade.
So how are they? I guess this would be the perfect time to implement the hip hop, the music, because they're moved by that.
So think about it. When you was going to school, right? When I was going to school, we learned about everybody else's culture but ours.
Yeah.
I remember talking about Benjamin Franklin, Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, right?
Right.
Learning about everybody else's culture. Why not learn about Abiso Campos? Why not learn about Melly Mel, Grandmaster Caz? Why not learn about the people that have molded and made our communities what they are?
You're Puerto Rican too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And you have children of your own?
Yes, I have 3 children. I have a 21-year-old daughter, I have an 18-year-old son, and a 7-year-old daughter. So it's a little spread out, but it's the most amazing thing to have 3 children.
Is the 7-year-old going to this school?
No, I wish.
It's not allowed?
It probably is allowed, but I don't want to chance it. I wouldn't want my daughter to be put in a very uncomfortable situation.
Okay.
All 3 of my children are very successful. My son is going to St. John's this year, and my daughter is finishing up Westchester Community College.
Nice.
And my little one is going to be the interesting
I
one.
love it. Not so long ago, I spoke to a group of teens, and I just felt so refreshed to know that there is hope for the children and the teens, because they're very smart. They're very driven. They have goals and dreams, and I'm like, wow. You know, it's just where they're being brought up or who they're around.
Yeah, through social media, children are developing a lot faster. They're learning about things a lot quicker.
Yeah.
And it's good because we know that our time is limited on this planet. So the quicker our children learn about the world and how to impact it, the more time they're going to have a positive impact on this world. So.
Yeah, I was thinking this morning, like when I went to school, principals were so serious and intimidating. So, like, how did you kind of break that seal to come in? I mean, did you have to have a persona in the beginning and it just kind of leaked out that you're just cool, or did you just come in and just kind of be yourself?
So in the beginning, you know, I was kind of nervous. I said, you know, I don't think they're ready for me. They're not ready. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I think sometimes people I speak to are not ready for me. You know, they're not used to a principal that knows about hip hop. They're not used to a principal that knows about sneakers and the things that, you know, make our communities what they are. I talk different, you know. I can turn it on and off.
Which is a great thing.
I dress different, you know. I'm not the same, you know. I'm dressed up today because, you know, of course my teachers came back, but I can show up at school with a pair of Adidas sometimes, you know. The reality is I want to make sure I'm connected with my children in the school, because I know that if I can impact them mentally and socially, they're going to want to come to school and they're going to want to aspire to be someone in life.
And you may be that friend that they need. Because to me, it would come off like you're kind of a opening, inviting door, right, to answer? Absolutely.
Yeah. I always tell people, you know, you can come talk to me in my office. Children come in, they talk with me. It's amazing sometimes the conversations you can have with a child. But it's being open and letting people know that, you know what, you can do it too. And I think that, you know, when I was forced by my guidance counselor to go into the military, basically, I realized that, you know, I don't want that for our children. I want our children to decide what they want to be. And I want to be that light to shine it for the children.
How were you in school that she felt that you wouldn't be a good candidate for it?
So I got left back in the 2nd grade.
Okay.
So that was an eye-opener for me. But after that, I wound up in gifted.
How old were you in 2nd grade?
7.
Aww.
So 7 years old, I was left back because no one took
traumatizing, right?
No one took the time to know that I couldn't read.
Okay.
You know, so.
Yeah.
But after that, I wound up in gifted and talented all the way through up until I got to high school. And of course, in high school, you get lost.
Yeah.
You know, I went to Stevenson High School. It was a big school. No one knew that I was an artist. You know, so that's why I'm a major advocate for arts education as well, the importance of arts being in the schools, because I realized that had someone taken the time to know that I was an artist, I think that my path would have been a little bit different in life.
You're, not to cut you off, got it? Okay. And you're also an advocate for bullying.
Yeah, I fight against bullying.
Yeah.
You know, growing up, I was exposed to bullying. I did things that I was not happy about myself growing up.
You were a bully.
No, not really a bully.
Torres, you have to get in line.
No, no bullying here. But you know what? People, growing up where we grew up, we tested each other. You know, we didn't have that guidance.
Yeah.
So the older children would test the younger children. It was just a way of us growing up and into manhood. And I think that if we had the right guidance, it could have been done, channeled in a positive way.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you agree that the kids are not having the right guidance now because the bullying has gotten way worse.
I think the bullying has always existed. I
That
think
always has. I was bullied too.
I think
But I didn't go home and want to like commit suicide or anything. I was just scared to go to school the next day, but
I think the bullying now is stronger because
Yeah.
of the social media aspect. It's almost like you can't escape it, right? So when we were growing up, we didn't have to worry about Facebook, social media. So we were bullied here, but then we could go home and escape it.
right.
Now it follows you everywhere you go,
Yeah.
and it's very important that we educate people on what is bullying and what is not bullying, because people say it's bullying, but it's really not bullying. But I feel that it's important that we make sure that all children feel comfortable in this world. I know how it affected me in my life and how it kept me from doing certain things that I wanted to do.
I agree.
Yep.
It's kind of traumatizing. It does scar you
It-
for a long time.
It does, and you know what? For me, I take it as, you know, making myself stronger.
Of course.
And as I got older, I realized why certain things were the way they was.
So what's your favorite thing about these little youngins? Anything you can share with us?
Yeah, I just love the children I support. I mean, we serve the poorest congressional district in the country.
Really?
So the children come with a lot of challenges. And for me, that's very important because I was them at one point. And I see how great they can be and how much potential they have. And actually, I tell people, you know, my students are probably more talented than most students. Why? Because they're having to grow up a lot faster.
Okay.
So working in the school that I'm working in, I see the potential of my students. I see the greatness that they can bring. Actually, one of my students now plays in the NBA. Desi Rodriguez played for Seton Hall. He was playing with the Clippers, and I think he's overseas right now.
Nice.
But that's what I live for, is changing the direction of a family, changing the direction of a child that normally would not have, a positive outcome.
Why is it that the community school can have all these things for the kids that are beneficial, but our public schools, our city schools cannot?
So it is a public school.
Okay.
So the only reason
Maybe
why
I worded it wrong.
Yeah, so the only reason why it's a community school is because the needs of the community around the school are great. So I have to provide extra services in my school building. That's what makes a community school. So we're a public school. We're no
Okay.
different. I may look a little different than most schools.
Okay.
But a lot of that is because the needs around the school are so great. We have to provide them in the school. So we have a hospital in the school because the medical needs of the community are not met directly by the community.
Interesting.
So we have the farms growing because, you know what, poverty and hunger exist in our community. So we have a lot of interesting things in our school, and you know what, I'm a hustler. I grew up hustling, right? And in a good way, not a bad way. And I bring those resources into the school because I want to make sure that our children have the best education possible. They deserve it.
So when are we having this hip hop open, the school open?
So there's a
wanna visit.
few announcements that I can make. So we're gonna have our back to school event on the 14th, where we're going to be really promoting a lot of the work. The 21st is a special announcement that's going to be made by Macy's, and I can't really share right now.
Oh, Macy's.
Yeah, and Windows of Hip Hop and Belova watches.
Oh, okay.
They're going to be
Which
making.
they've been working together a lot.
We've been collaborating with Belova for a
Yeah.
little bit. I was supposed to be at the Grammys last year.
Make it this
I'm
year.
gonna be there this year, hopefully. But I have a whole bunch of collaborators coming on with this project because at the end of the day, what we want to do is prepare our children, have them learn about their own culture and develop skills that eventually they can get jobs.
Are we okay? Any advice on looking for work?
Well, looking for work, I mean, I tell people, you know, you are where you are right now because you choose to be there. Because I've seen people who worked in McDonald's and now own a McDonald's, you know.
Right.
It's about you committing to something and just staying the course, you know. In our school, I provide parents jobs. I hired 15 parents last year.
Wow.
Because they came in as volunteers, and I told them, you stay the course, stay the course, stay the course. If you want to volunteer in the school, that's fine. And if you keep doing it, eventually you might wind up in the job. And we hired 15 parents last year. Yeah, so that's the kind of work we're doing. And then we have about 7 or 8 former students who work in the school now. And little by little, the school is reflective of the community.
Okay. Are we going to like high school to do this?
No.
You don't have any ideas to bring like a high school and have the same type of...
It's hard because you have to find people who are like-minded, right? And
because it takes a village, right?
Yeah, and like I told you before, they were not ready for me. You know, I don't know what I can do to get other people to think and be like myself. Not to brag or anything like that, but, you know, not everyone thinks the same. So I've been thinking about a couple of middle schools I'm partnering with, maybe a couple of high schools I can partner with. Eventually, when I create the music studio with Windows of Hip Hop and Belova at the school, we want to replicate that. So that work will start to spread to middle schools and high schools. That's our goal.
I love that. I mean, that's what they're into, the entertainment. That's what captures them.
That's our goal, right? To expand the work because we want to make sure that all children have access to these materials and things.
All right. So what's going on with you? How was your summer?
Everything's been going great. It's interesting that I just did a TED Talk on the importance of arts education.
Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so I basically talked about my life growing up and, you know, how no one knew I was an artist. And
when you mean artist, you mean like drawing?
Yeah, I was a graffiti artist.
I was gonna say that. I don't know why.
I didn't draw
this vibe from you.
I didn't draw on trains, but I was a graffiti artist. And of
do
course,
you still do it?
I still do. Most of the designs for my school, I do them myself.
Oh my God, this is amazing. I have to go visit you.
Absolutely.
I know you've been telling me, come over, but we're working and everything, but I would love to go visit you.
It would be nice to do a show from the school.
Yeah, it's not impossible, trust me.
Yep. So yeah, I grew up doing graffiti. I did a lot of visual arts. I was never a musician, but arts was there. I say I was never a musician because I was never exposed to an instrument growing up.
Okay.
So that's what my whole TED Talk is about, you know, getting children to be exposed to the arts and also how certain communities control scholarships by offering high-level quality programs in their communities that we don't have in other communities. So then at the end of the day, certain children gain access to high-quality high schools and colleges, scholarships, and other things. So that's basically my TED Talk. It goes into my military and not being able to go to college. But then the interesting twist is that 30 years later, my daughter gets denied access to state arts college or fashion college.
Really?
And so my talk then goes into 30 years later, things haven't changed. And we have to do better.
Yeah, we do have to do better.
I mean, a state-funded college where I'm paying taxes. I did military time. I'm a disabled veteran from the military, and my daughter can't gain access to a state-funded college. That makes no sense.
For that?
No, because my daughter's highly talented.
Is it nothing personal?
No, I think when you look at the data of certain colleges, you'll see that 60% are from one population, and the rest is a mix. And then foreign students have more access to that college than brown and black children.
Interesting.
So when you start to look at things like that, you can come from another country and gain access, yet black and brown children from New York don't have access to a state-funded, tax-paid college. Then you start to realize that there's a problem.
That's definitely a problem. But she's good now, right?
Oh, she's fine. She started her own eyelash company.
Oh, you see?
Yeah. She's about to finish, her college, and she's working in Amani Exchange.
Nice.
Learning the craft. But I have no doubt she'll be very successful, just like my son.
Yeah, definitely. Do you believe that college is like necessary for children now? Well, young adults now?
I think college is necessary because there's a lot of jobs you can't go into without college.
Yeah.
But I've seen people who haven't gone to college become very successful. So, it really depends on each person's journey is their own. And I think that the path that we take and how successful we are is dependent on what we view success as.
Yeah. I know when I first started college, BA was a great degree to have. Now it's like everything is master's sometimes.
It's funny because I told somebody, you probably can't even work in McDonald's anymore, right? Without a high school diploma. At some point, it's going to be like that. The military, you need college credits. Police department, to go into the academy, you need college credits. It's getting to the point where there's a requirement, but at the end of the day, we know that you can be successful without going to college, but our goal is to have every child go to college.
And it's a great experience. There's nothing like getting that paper at the end. Whether you learned something or not, it was just the determination, the focus, the drive that you still had.
Absolutely.
And nobody can tell you anything once you get that paper.
And there's one thing that's for certain, right? We only live once, right?
Right.
And if you can get a college degree and be happy with that, then, that's a job well done,
Yeah, definitely.
And if you can get 3 or 4 college degrees, then you can tell your guidance
like someone
counselor.
I know.
You can tell your guidance counselor, you see, I am successful, in life.
Have you ever seen that person again?
I'll be honest with you,
Yeah.
it's so long ago, I think that person is probably not with us anymore.
Oh, okay.
Because if you figure I was in high school, it was when I was 18, so I'm about 30, it was about 31 years ago.
I would have loved to see what it was all about.
Yeah, I mean,
teachers should not be discouraging children.
Well, it was a guidance counselor, and it was about 3 friends of mine all went into the Navy, which is interesting. And we all graduated the same year.
That's weird.
Yeah, it's almost like a recruitment that was happening back then.
Yeah.
And it was right before Desert Storm, so.
Oh.
Yeah, so we
the
got
90s, right?
1990.
Oh, I was a baby.
Yeah, it was right out of high school. I was 18 years old.
Wow. What was, real quick, what was that experience like?
The military?
Yeah. Was it a good one for you?
No, it was the first time I was exposed to racism.
Okay.
When they found out I was from New York,
Yeah.
when they saw my last name, the people at boot camp, they traumatized me.
Really?
And they would call me names and they would say different things to me that, made me feel uncomfortable.
So there's more bullying then?
It was more bullying there than anywhere.
By adults now?
It was by adults. And of course I was 18 years old.
Yeah.
And it was encouraged almost because they wanted to break us. And I just learned from that whole experience. But it was funny because I always viewed people in a positive light. And this was the first time where I really viewed people negatively, even though I grew up in a very challenging community.
Right. This was the most challenging then.
It was most challenging, and it took a lot for me not to break.
And we got through it. And
now I'm an educator.
Now you're an educator. You have a school that's your home, basically, and you're just bettering our future. And thank you so much.
I appreciate that. And on November 8th, I'll be speaking. I'm the keynote speaker for an organization called ASCD, which is a well-known organization countrywide. And I'm looking forward to it. Usually there's about 1,000 people there, maybe more. And I just want to keep spreading the word of, why it's important that we see the potential in all children and that we continue to fight for equity and access for all children.
I love that. Is there one thing you can say to the parents at home?
I just want to tell the parents that, don't be discouraged. All of our children are gifted and talented.
Okay.
We just got to look to see what their interests are. And no matter what they want to be, you got to push them and support them and motivate them and just fight for them, because at the end of the day, they're our future. And right now they may not like certain things that we want for them. But at the end of the day, we need to make their lives better. And if we can support them in doing that, let's do it.
Yes, then you're like the parent of the year.
I wish.
Let our viewers know where they can find you.
Well, most people can see me on social media.
Yes, you're very active. You put little quotes every morning,
my MTA morning reflections.
Yes, they are. I love them.
When I take bus to work every morning. You can find me on Instagram on Torres ASCD. And basically, that's the best place to find me as far as social media. Everything else is a little bit more challenging. And of course, if you're interested in coming out to CS55, I'm always looking for people to collaborate with.
Oh, I love that. I can't wait to visit. You can also check him out on YouTube. There's a couple of speeches and appearances that he did that he has posted up. Of course, when we have Windows of Hip Hop honorees, he's always there to represent. So you see a lot of Luis Torres in the Bronx doing what he needs to do. Before we leave you, I just want to leave you with a couple of things to just keep in mind that someone very special had written to me for me personally, but I want to share it with you. So just focus, find your passion, don't let fear stop you. How to find your gifts, try to brainstorm and get creative with trying to find your gift. Have fun in life, know the real you, and seek advice from those that you trust. It will get you a long way. Thank you once again, Luis Torres, the BX Principal. I love you. Thank you, Geoffrey Smith, for being here. Thank you guys for tuning in each and every week. Remember, the D-Essence Show is here to give you what you need to have in life, love, empowerment, entertainment. You name it, I got you. If not, you better get in line. Have a good night.